All right, welcome back to the Built to Grow podcast. I am your host, Randy Angston. For the day, Tim Lyons out of town, but as you can see on YouTube, I am joined by this ginger feller, good buddy of ours and multiple podcast visitor, our good buddy Zach Lucas. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good. Good. We're here to party while Tim's out of town.
Yeah, yes. As you can see on YouTube, we have the whiskey flowing. No, I wish we did, but we both have full days ahead of us, and it's like 9 a.m. So we'll save that one for the next time. But
yeah,
typically, yes. As we said, Zach has been on the podcast a couple of times. What is your official title over at FIIT Nation?
So I'm the operating partner.
Partner.
A couple of us own it, and I operate it.
Perfect. And the reason that we're going to have, or I wanted to have Zach on today was, in the expansion and growth of your brand and your business, you've got a lot of options. Do you want to, continue and build the same location, expand that location? Do you want to venture into the licensing or franchising world, or move into multiple locations? And I mean, you've got a lot of options when it comes to that, and you guys are doing just that right now.
We are.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So FIIT Nation, it kind of started off, inside the big box of FIIT Republic. So we took the boutique box into, our version of Mountainside, our version of EOS, and the studio model was inside as an option for people to upgrade. It's very similar to all the other, studios. We had one-on-one, we had small group, but then we added large group actually into a big box. So as we dove into COVID, previous to FIIT Republic, I had already had studios on the outside, boutique studios. We took it inside to add this realm or that option, and then we ended up building about 70 locations that way, and it was very successful. We absolutely loved it. Post-COVID, during COVID, my partners and I sat down and said, it's time for the boutique FIIT Nation to emerge. And so it's one of my actual points on here is we sat down and literally said, almost like the book, 7 Highly Habits of Successful People, right? Like saying, begin with the end in mind. What do we want to do with it? What do we want to do right now? We had that conversation before number one.
There you go.
And so we literally knew we have a set number of corporate stores in our mind that we want to build. We have a set number of revenue from those stores. And from that number, once it's achieved, then we start talking about franchising. We start talking about selling. We start talking about bringing in VC money, staying on, and almost like OTF after they got their first round of money, then somebody else came and said, hey, we could give you a lot of money and do this a lot faster.
Scale. And
so for us, it was about scaling probably between 10 and 15 successful stores, and those P&Ls would drive us in the direction we have. So we had a couple meetings along the way, now that COVID's done and or we're kind of emerged from that in these studios. So FIIT Nation now has 3 open stores. We're under construction in 3 more. And so we're kind of back on track with our growth model up to that 10 to 12.
I love that. So when it came to deciding what you guys wanted out of it before, like you said, you kind of made those decisions before step one. How did you guys come to those terms? Was it a revenue goal that you had to kind of reverse engineer? Was it the number that just kind of sounded? I mean, like there had to be some intentionality and thought behind that. How did you guys go about that?
Yeah, so we did pro formas on most of locations of what we wanted. Like our box is a large group training with one-on-one and small group option. So we don't lean towards those, but because our boxes are so big, between 4,000 or 5,000 and 9,000, we carve off space for coaches to do one-on-one and small group. Large group is still our bread and butter, which I know is super popular on this podcast.
Yeah.
It is our bread and butter, and I do know that I agree with the Alloy model. My friends, I love them to death. I love listening to this podcast so much. I get so much out of this group and this family of people. That was the model that we had chose, just because FIIT Nation, all of our processes, all of our replicatable things, the multiplication that we could do, the speed in which we could engage was all done. And so we backtracked into the one-on-one small group as well. And we also do include nutrition with macros with every single one of our clients. So we decided on a number. It was financial, saying if we had this many members and our rents were about this and it was costing us this, we would be happy with this minimum profit margin. And then some of them, obviously, we would average it out.
Yeah,
and at that average, then we would keep growing and we would keep putting the gas to the pedal.
I love that. Yeah. I'd like to bring them the data or like, the numbers, because I know that, through our relationship, you've talked about those things a number of times. It's not just fly by wire or whim.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think gym owners in general, and Tim and I preach constantly is, right, like, look at the data, interpret the data. The data is going to tell you what you need to know. You guys incorporated that in every decision you make with the business. Is that something that, you guys can continue driving at this point, with the continued locations?
Yeah. So we even just changed our marketing company based on data. And I went to FIIT West, actually, a convention in FIIT West, and we met with 3 of the top fitness marketing companies out there. And one of the things that they looked at is they said, hey, give us all your data and we'll tell you how to go get your client. And not only that, but we'll nail down so that it's not only about, like, the current companies we're getting, where they were happy getting me 100 leads, right?
Sure.
And they always talked about CPL. And it's driving me nuts, man, because I'm like, I went back over 6 months and I literally marked every member I got from that company. And it was maybe 3 to 4 to 5 out of the maybe 60 to 70 leads they got. And I'm going to tell you guys, we have really good systems. We have really good sales systems. We're on top of that. And so the new company came to me and said, no, I might only get you 12 leads, but I'm going to get you the 12 right people. And your member lifetime value.
It goes right to, that's everything that Tim and I, right now, we just released the Math of Marketing. Yeah. It's a free training for you guys listening. We'll throw it in the show notes, but it's so exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
In a marketing company, their job is CPL, right? They don't have the full picture. No. You know what I mean? So when you're able to show them, hey guys, like, I don't care if you're paying $100 for that lead. If they're walking through and paying me monthly after that, right? Like the 97 that you never even got contact for, it doesn't matter if they're $7 leads.
No.
They're not walking through the door.
No.
So, no, I love that. And again, like, back to the data that makes you comfortable and clear on making the decisions for the business.
Yeah, and they dialed down so much off our data, which I would tell everybody in here, regardless of what POS system you use, the more data you have, name, age, birth date, last name, email. It's not just 5 points anymore. If you can get their address upon enrolling, so we use VFP as our CRM system, and now we understand the power of that data. And so the new company literally grabbed all that data, and they were able to pinpoint our members and advertise directly to them. And then even a direct mail piece, which I thought direct mail piece was dead.
Old is new now.
And he's like, oh no, here's what you guys were doing, throwing 20,000 out. What we're going to do is throw 5,000 out, and only to this member and her neighbors, because we know her neighbors are her, right?
I love that.
Super smart.
That's something that I know that we've done that here at Pulse is we've used mapping software to literally look at a map and see where our clientele. We're right across, right down the street here is the 101, the highway.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to see the other side of the tracks like it's different than this side of the tracks, but when it comes to travel, we know that, for some reason, if people have to go under the overpass, which is simple to do, they're just not considering this for an option, right? All of our clientele live on the other side of that road. Yeah. So by us throwing marketing dollars into neighborhoods that aren't likely to convert, it's wasted dollars. And like you're saying, the data tells you exactly where you need to put your efforts.
Yeah. So what we did with Fit Nation is we started with the end in mind, and then when we decided, and this we really want to talk about how. Is it right for you to multiply?
Correct.
Is it right for you to grow another business? And I took a bunch of notes about what went into our decision-making factor, because I'm going to tell you right now, if Randy and I decide to open a studio right here, there's a good chance that we just run one, we have an amazing life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Sure.
Just kind of like Pulse is just killing it in this market, and Pulse, as of now, hasn't decided to do a second location, right? Well, for me, it was much more about brand recognition, right? And I started thinking about my why. So that's the first thing I tell them is think about why you want a second location. Is it because your location is so full, right? And you're over capacity. Your appointments are booked. You're pushing out the walls, right? Well, would it be less of a headache to find bigger walls, super close to where you're at right now, and almost increase your profit margins by 20, 30, 40%? Is it like we worked with you on retail? Was it bringing in more retail? Like, is there ways inside this business? Because what I found, even for me, who had built 60 before in a kind of a cookie cutter, big box situation, studios with the level of the relationship that this manager and or trainers are going to have is a different world post-COVID. I don't care what anybody says.
I can understand
it is much, much different. And so you have to really look at your bandwidth, right? Like, what's my bandwidth? What is my family able to manage, right? As we go through this construction phase, because your time and attention is going to be focused on this next build. I have 3 builds going on at the same time. So I have a director of new business development, and she's just unbelievable. She's amazing. And she came from an orange company that she had opened 5 stores over 500. So she's in what they call the 500 club. So she knows how to pre-sell. She's got my back when it comes to the sales process at the front.
Sure.
So that alleviates me to go build, we're talking about equipment orders, all of the designs, and then also fall back on the one that may be opening now that doesn't have either one of you there, that might not be staffed.
Yeah, need some attention.
Attention, right? Yeah. So, I literally wrote down, what is your end game? Is it to franchise? And then you have to really look at whether franchise federal laws, your franchise state laws. It's a lot. Franchising, we've held off on franchising FIIT Nation, which we could right now and go sell it across the country, but we've held off on it because I think it's a tough beast.
I agree, and I think that we've worked with a number of franchises over the years, and some organizations do it really well.
Yeah.
But I would say as a whole, just my own personal opinion. Obviously, nothing on those organizations, but working with those gym owners themselves as those franchisees, the majority of the time, I feel like they almost bought themselves a job, right? I'm sure is it that cross that one off the list, which is okay, but you need to know that as an owner,
right.
Buying into that, right? Here, there was a member here for years that had Subways, and he knew that getting those off the ground, it demanded this much time and attention to him, and it falls on your plate as the owner until you have a team and staff and the people to be able to do it. And so, I think franchising is probably one of the taller orders. But if you have proof of concept, if you've got, and again, it's going to fall back on systems. Franchises are systems. I don't care how good the individual is or the individuals. Like, if you can't replicate that system, you're done.
Yeah, and I would tell you, even for us, just being a multi-door owner, we haven't taken a franchise yet because we're not scalable yet. I am myself.
And it's honorable.
I am myself scalable, but I remember my partner, Sanjeev Chopra, who's just an amazing partner, and my other one, Jonathan Wall, we're all just work really well together, but he just keeps reminding me all the time, they're not you.
Yeah.
They're not you. Neither will your franchisees. That won't be you. And so FIIT Nation, because we do nutrition and because we do, smart starts and reprograms, we offer all these personal training services along with their group training membership to keep them engaged, right? To extend that member lifetime value. You have to find unique people that are willing to work and serve a lot of these free hours. It's not just walk in, coach, and leave. And so it's a little too complex for me to flip to franchising quite yet. We're almost there. I have the processes for the front end, the membership sales. Everything's done there. Our woods, our we have those big TV screens, our avatars. Like, we work with MyZone very, very well. I probably could, but I also, probably a lot like you and Tim, I'm somewhat of a control freak and perfectionist, and so I can't quite yet sell a franchisee and tell them you're going to be super successful doing this, and him come from the Subway world, right?
Sure.
Which is what franchising is. It shouldn't be everybody is from fitness. So we're almost there. But it's funny you said that, because I literally wrote on here, what's your end game? One of those is a lot of people have created themselves a job, which isn't bad. You're an entrepreneur. You're working for yourself. You're not going to corporate America. You get to get beards and mustaches like this, right? We get to wear t-shirts to
whatever we want, right? Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of people get burnt out by creating themselves a job. And the other thing is that sellable, right?
Correct.
Like,
Absolutely.
So one of the things that my partners and I looked at is we look backwards. We looked forward and said, what would we be happy with the next 5 years of our lives building? They do a lot of the real estate, they do the building for me, and I do the operations. So as a team, we literally come up with that number saying, hey, here's what it's worth. 5 years of my life is worth, right? And I'm sure they have that same mentality. And so we think about that build, sell, and or, hey, by that time it might be ready for franchising.
I love the idea though, like the intentionality, you're building it with the option to sell from day one.
Yep.
With the thought of that. One of the, obviously our mission with Built to Grow is, Tim and I are both on that entrepreneurial mindset. Fall back on that Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, right? Like, you know, when you buy a franchise, you're self-employed. When you open up your gym and you're still working in the business, you're self-employed. Yeah. Until you can actually, you know, systematize the business and staff it and ascend yourself out of that self-employed role and into a business ownership role, that's where a lot of that time freedom and obviously, hopefully, that financial freedom to some degree is in there too. But that's, in our opinion, that should be the goal for most business owners. I mean, if you buy a business, like, let's get you out of the business at some point, right? It shouldn't that be the natural process that we're thinking about? But I think that most people get excited, open the business, and then it's, holy shit, how do I get there?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they get stuck in the machine.
And that's it. And then you're in the in the rat race doing the work, and there's no time to work on the business.
No, 100%. I literally, some of the things I wrote, you know, about the pros versus the cons, and before you, I mean, if you're considering this, obviously, if anybody's considering this, it's most likely to have a successful number one.
Sure, absolutely.
The profit is probably somewhere a point where you're literally looking at this money going, I could do another one, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of wrote down some bullet points that just help us to understand when we're ready for the next one. Number one is time. How much time do you have? How much time does your team have? And you know, what's the value for your time? Because anytime you duplicate, you need to be able to dedicate a certain amount of time. So we do 4-month pre-sales, no more. And then on that 4th month, usually turning over the equipment to me and turning over the business. And from that moment, we need to be at 400 or 500 members, right? That's our number. And, you know, 300, we make money, 400, we're good, 500, we're printing money. And so, and you know, that doesn't take away from us our love and passion for solving member problems, right? We absolutely are die-hard fitness people. So what I would say is, do they have that time? Or two, do they have that process? You know, have they created scalable, quantifiable, teachable, repeatable, you know, processes that are streamlined and they're replicatable?
Yeah.
And that is where a lot of one-store owners fail. And if you could go on vacation for 10 days and come back, and either you were worried when you went, or all you thought about is checking on your numbers and stuff, and you don't have that manager, that person that you turn over the business to, or the team that turns over the business to, then even if you have the money, I don't know if I would go build another one, because your time and energy is going to be enormously invested in this new business. And I have some stats here that is crazy, because when I looked up successful business in the Department of Labor, you know, I used to hear this number all the time, at 90% of small businesses fail within 5 years. Mm-hmm. And it's actually not true. It's 50% of small businesses fail within 5 years. But less than like 1 or 2 ever do second door. The percentage of those people doing a second location is minute. It's very, very small. Yeah. And that I think that goes back to bandwidth. It goes back to what can I handle, what can I duplicate, and then I think the people that do it get a huge wake-up call, like from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 locations. We talked to our buddy Mike Gelfcott from Anytime. He was on the podcast a while ago, and we were talking about this the changes at scale from 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 10. You know, at one point he had 21 locations, I think. You know, and so, you know, growing from 15 to 21 locations. His job, the gym was figured out. Yeah. It was a staffing issue. It's people outside of what you would think, you know, the 4 walls of a gym needed. Yeah. It's organization, you know, they're managing teams of people themselves. Yeah. And so lately I've been a big who, not how kick. That's right. And that's the next one right there. People. And that's a big thing. And for gym owners, before we move on from time is huge for gym owners. And one of the things I wish I could preach more is the value of your time. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Yeah. And, you know, like to the point earlier, like,
you can work yourself into the business so deep that getting out seems like an impossibility. And so what do you do every day? You turn around and you go do what you know.
Yeah.
And it's back to the training floor, serving your clients, and it's a cyclical rat race. And while admirable and beautiful and you're doing what you love, if it's not paying you a dividend, if it's not giving you a day off, if it's, you own the business. If you want to do that, sell the business and go work for somebody else, make a paycheck and get to go home at night. You know what I mean? You're carrying the burden of all of it for sometimes no actual reward. And so there's that tough understanding of, like the purpose of this podcast, like what is right for you as the owner? Because there are multiple ways to go about it.
And the value of your time. I know the older I get, the more I value my time more than anything else I have.
Absolutely.
And if you have the ability to take the time that you have and put it into your business, back away from your own business per se, right, and turn it over to management. At Fit Nation, although I am the operating partner, I try, even though my partners want me to be, I try not to be the face of the brand.
Sure.
So you don't see me, even though I post a lot about Fit Nation, and we have social media companies that work on that. They are not pushing Zach. I think like Bedros and some of the other guys, they're I think Mark Wahlberg's all over F45, right? Like they got a face to the name.
Sure.
I don't know who the owner of F45 is, but I know he's a partner somewhere along.
Yeah.
But they've chosen, a guy for that role. I've chosen not to be that role because I want to back away slowly as I coach, train up, back away, because that frees up my time to be able to push the brand forward.
I was going to say, and you put that emphasis on the brand then.
That's right. On building new stores and hiring new managers and training them. And so, that time piece and that bandwidth piece. And then I would, if they are looking at one of the other things is I would include their family in the discussion, adding wives and children if they're at the age to help, to say, what do we want to do as a family? Because it takes an enormous amount of time. And speaking from a gym owner that had built 60 with my partners, and then now we're building 10 to 12, there are locations that go down. And when that location goes down, it's an enormous amount of time. And I think it's important to bring that family along so that they make that family decision. So it's not just, hey, I want to go build another location. We go do it. And then all of a sudden, this one that might not be performing the way you want it. So now you've got pre-sale or brand new business that needs a lot of time and attention, and you have an exhausting one to go fix that. And I say that because I'm currently in that situation now. In 3 weeks, I've been at that business.
Yeah.
So I've had to tell my sons and my family, like, listen, I got to go fix this business, right? It's difficult.
That's a good point, because we don't talk about, very rarely do we bring up like the other pillars of life and like how the business can affect and have an impact on all of those things. Obviously it does in every realm.
Yeah.
But, are we weighing in those aspects in the decisions we're making for the business? That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, because then if you have that right relationship with those family members, some of them might help to remove the ego of I want more doors, or the ego of I want to make more money, or what, again, defining the why. Sometimes it's not the why. Some people are like, no, I want to affect more change in the world, right? I want to fit, and that is part of my mission is to deliver a fitness experience across the world that we can change people's lives through fitness, right? Yeah. But at the same time, if I do that, but I lose my family along the way, is it worth it? And that goes back to that time going, part of the decision making of should we open isn't just profitability. You may have the money, but is the money the only thing that matters?
Sure. Where
I've seen a lot of people that do it smartly, they bring those people along, and husband and or wife, are right on board. I think Sean Whalen, is that one of the guys we watch?
Yeah.
I love watching him. He, it seems like him and his family are together.
Oh, yeah.
The Diesel, their family are together. Like they have set in mind, this is our mission, this is our go, but they have all the details about what that's going to take too.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, it's going to take me and you, potentially. Sometimes they're a family that does it together. It's going to take both of us to
execute
this play.
Yeah, it's a really big. Obviously with time and people. Your family is a big factor in that. So
yeah, I included them in my people. And then the other thing about people is, do you have the right people that are brand loyal, to keep your brand running while you're gone.
Well, we could talk to that for just a second. I mean, we live in a very interesting time when it comes to employment and the hiring marketplace or the hiring pool. Yeah. How are you guys addressing some of those challenges? Are you able to find, some of those diamonds in the rough? Or is it still, I mean, it could just be a fact that it's still just difficult.
We have, but Good. I would tell you, there's a lot more digging.
Yeah.
There used to be the diamonds I feel like might have been sticking out of the wall a little farther.
A little too earlier, yeah.
Now they're bigger, they're deep.
Are you guys having to do things? This is something I'm finding in other industries and a lot of reading. A lot of organizations are going to things outside of just standard pay and incorporating things like social impact, charitable contributions to the organization, like what the organization as a whole does, for charity. Time off or like all of these weird things that to us, it was like, when I was applying for jobs growing up, I was like, pay me the most.
That's right.
And I'll be there. Yeah. Right. Like that was the
Give
driving.
Me a good comp plan and I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But nowadays, like, I use the statistic, or Forbes did a study a couple years ago, right before COVID. And on Fridays they polled corporate America, and overwhelmingly, they would rather have free pizza Fridays than a pay raise. Yeah. And I don't understand that mentality. I'm sure you struggle to as well, but that shows us that like those people in those types of positions, they don't think like us. And so like when it comes to creating a desirable, job for somebody, sometimes we have to get outside of what we think that they want and actually, look at what the marketplace is telling us. Have you guys found anything weird, or are you doing anything like, adding to the comp plans in weird ways or things like that to kind of motivate?
Yeah, so some of I'll give you some secret sauce about FIIT Nation is so we do a few things. Number one, when members come in and they don't show or late cancel, we charge them $10. Just like all the big groups, right? There's a charge. First and foremost, we dedicate 50% of that to charity. We don't want the money. It's a profitability, right?
It's
and then the staff gets to choose every month, ideally, where that goes. So the staff gets to decide: are we donating to puppies? Is it homeless? Is it VA? Like, what are we doing this month with this money? And surprisingly, it can be a reasonable amount of money depending on your policies. Number two, we use NPS scoring. I use NPS scoring, Medallia. It basically is the ultimate question. And if anybody has read the book, The Ultimate Question, or reached out to some Medallia companies, it's basically the same survey that Southwest Airlines, Nike, you buy a pair of Nikes, they're going to send you a survey that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely you refer your friends and family to come work out here, right? That's a member question. If you get a 1 to a 5, they're detractors, 6, 7, or 8, they're neutrals, 9 or 10 are raving fans. Well, with each one of those, you want to do something after you get the
differently.
You're like, okay, how do we work hard?
Let's not ask a testimonial from your 1 to 5s, right?
Like, and you're not no reviews. You're literally just trying to find out the negative experience. Is it fixable? Yeah. Can I get them to at least a neutral, right?
And, close the feedback loop.
And yes. So then I started to figure out that I should be asking my employees that. So we implemented the same question on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to refer your friends and family to come work at Pulse Fitness, right? Or FIIT Nation? And I was surprised. I was getting 2s sometimes and 3s. And And so
data, by the way.
Yeah, data, right? and for me as the owner, it gave me direct feedback because just so that everybody knows, I actually don't run one of the studios. I live in Scottsdale. My closest studio is Flagstaff. I have California, Idaho. So I'm not actually day-to-day operational in the studios. So I really rely on these managers to hire, train, develop correctly. And so then the other thing that we did outside of NPS, which that information is just incredibly valuable, and I have taken that information from an employee that was a 2, 3, or 4, and we've saved a lot of people, and we've also decided that was their last day. You can't have a detractor go train 30 people that day.
Sure.
I mean, it's horrifying. It can go bad fast, right? So the next thing that we did is we incorporate vesting percents to the general managers. So we give them a piece of the pie. We want people that are going to come long term, and at that point in time, if they're 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, there's time that they earn. Not only do they get profit share at the P&L level. So if we're profitable, they earn a bonus. But after that bonus, then they vest based on time and membership sales. So once it gets to 350, 400 members and 500, their vesting goes up. It's not just based on time. It has to be on performance as well. And then at that time, they're actually able to buy more shares from my partnership group.
Nice.
We're a operating partner kind of company. That's where we're at right now until we hit the franchising mark, which I think that will end up being our direction. That's what we did at our last company. But it'll really depend on the performance and the EBITDA, where we're at the people at that 10 to 12, 15 locations.
Yeah, and I personally love that model. I know we've got a couple buddies, our buddies Casey and Jerry with FIIT and 42. Like they've got some invested interest in their managing partners and things like that. And I think that because of to the point of what we're talking about, right? Nobody's going to do it the same as you. They don't have the same stake in it as you. Mm-mm. And so in this situation, giving them a little bit of the pie. It does. It incentivizes them. They have some ownership, and then they can get out of bed feeling like as if their impact is somewhat self-serving as well, right? Not just to a P&L that they never understand or get a piece of. And so I think that, from a motivation standpoint or a hiring standpoint, or, if those people are looking for other career options, if they're looking for another GM position in another facility, that is something that speaks volumes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what we have found is that when you're doing that presentation, when you're doing that sale to this, once you find that right person, right, it clears the playing field a little bit, or the interview field of people that don't think like entrepreneurs. And to run a studio, you got to be quick on your feet. You have to be adaptable.
It's problem solving.
Right? It's problem solving. It's firefighting all day, right? And especially, as you know, with our membership base being a large group training facility, that member's a little bit different, a lot different than the members I saw when I walked through your store, right? And I actually know some of your members, so I know they're different. Yeah. And it's a little bit more of a discounter product versus what they're getting. We are still around the $169 to $199 rate. We're trying to push that per membership up.
It's somewhat a volume play.
It is for sure. It is for sure. And so that brings a different member. It definitely brings a different member. And so we try to find those people that get excited. If they don't get excited about the shares and the potential ownership, like my manager in El Dorado Hills, we recently sent out marketing information from corporate. I call myself corporate. I'm corporate.
I sent an email.
You have the coolest thing. I sent an email. And my director of new business, we had set a really cool referral play. Double down we normally give $25 off next month. Now we're doing double it down. We're doing 50 first, 100 second, 200 third, right? I mean, it basically could be a free month, right? Well, she really emailed me back, said, hey, I thought we did something else on our marketing calendar. Please don't communicate to my team without talking to me. And so, of course, me and Tara and I, we're corporate. We're offended because we're just trying to help.
Wait, what?
But then I sat on it and I said, no, this is the one that she wants to own this business.
She's taking ownership.
She's taking ownership, and she's saying, hey, by not telling me and by telling my staff, then my staff came to me and asked me about it, and I didn't know
anything. Sure.
Yeah, so we had miscommunicated from corporate, which happens in the corporate world all the time.
You know how many times I've seen corporate emails come from a brand?
Yeah.
It happens, and nobody at the store nobody knows what was happening. It was just it went out to the public, and all of a sudden,
and even small business, we made that mistake,
Yeah.
But it was fast-lived. We apologized on a big company call and said that, hey, as we create these internal, external promotions and then special club promotions just based on what's going on with your world, we'll make sure that you all have access to this file, this marketing calendar, and then number two, we're going to set the last Friday of every month to talk about next month what's going on, so there's no surprises for our managers. But what it really proved to me is our model works, because it, rather than us take it offensively, which we did at first, we were just like, oh my gosh, we're just trying to help her, and especially because she missed goal by 3 memberships.
Damn.
So all their bonuses, we put a lot of money on the table for our people, and she missed that. And I'm like, God, if she had this bonus, she could I was just thinking, like, how cool would this be? And then we rolled it out, and then we basically steamrolled her.
Sure.
And so going back to that finding the right people that will think as an owner, maybe not exactly like me, but that's who we're looking for. We believe we have a pretty cool way to identify them. it's still hard to find them.
Harder
than ever.
I mean, our inner circle is a daily conversation. Our coaching clients, every single facility is looking for at least coaches. Yeah. I know multiples looking for directors, fitness directors, GMs, that type of position. It is difficult, right? Yeah. And I think that all of us are feeling that, experiencing that, and it's forcing. I mean, at the end of the day, what do? We run at adversity. We figure out a way, and we'll get through this like we have everything else.
100%.
But yeah, it's a little bit of the diamond in the rough feel right now, and I think it's kind of unanimous across the industry.
Yeah, I definitely think the couple years that this time that we went through, I think people have a little leaned more to the other side. So like when we were growing up, literally all they did was give me a comp plan. I'm like, I figured out backwards how to make money, and I was there. And if I wasn't good at the job, then I just worked more hours because I could make more money by working more hours until I was skilled at the job. And eventually we got skilled at the job, I could have a good life. It was called balanced, get unbalanced to get balanced.
Sure.
That's not the byproduct of the last couple of years. Go out and get balanced to get unbalanced. But there are still hungry people out there that are really craving the way up. And the other way is that you and I didn't have all the different resources to make money, right? Like Instagram and Facebook and a lot of the ways that these side hustles, Uber and that side hustles that are just giving people enough.
And I think that's what it is I don't want to say entitled. When there's a sense of entitlement to some of it, at the ease at which people feel they should be paid or compensated. Oh yeah. Like that's become an overwhelming just kind of wave, and that's strange in its own. And obviously, I think those tides will shift as they tend to do. But aside from that, I mean, obviously the challenges with coming people and expanding and growing your business. What other real restrictions in the model, or I mean, back to the conversation. What other aspects do you feel are crucial when it comes to growing or deciding if multiple locations, franchising and things
so
like that?
Once you've decided I'm going to do it, right? Yeah. I'm going to do number two. I put number one, do your homework on your market analysis or pay somebody to do it. We pay somebody to do it. We are really good at demographics. We're really good at the basics. But companies like Insight, Roar, I mean, I think you guys have done a really good job in the past at this. When you guys had your marketing company, we hire somebody to go show. They know our model.
Yep.
They know what we're looking for, and they have dug into all of my club's datas, and they have looked at what we're going after, and now they come back and tell me, thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs up, but here's going to be some challenges, or thumbs down maybe, but here's going to be sure challenges.
How you can make
you
it
guys
happen.
decide that. So number one, data. That data, don't be emotional about the location you want to go to. You can think Target has thought, and you can Google this. Target has thought that they picked a gold mine and have literally had to close the business because they picked the wrong location.
Tim said it. I mean, he does believe that the number one underlying factor for success ultimately comes down to location.
100%.
I mean, like it is the biggest caveat. Yes. You know what I mean? Or decision maker.
Yeah, especially if you're any good at what you do, right? You're going to get a guest in the door, regardless of how many guests a door you get and what location you're at. You're going to either get people are walking in going, oh my gosh, I thought this was Planet. I'm in the wrong place. But location, and I even tell people that don't go after the right location or the best location. Maybe financially they're worried about rent. I say you're going to pay the same amount in advertising to tell your person to get here. And
that's a great way of saying it. You need the traffic somehow. Right? So, or is it going to be rental space at the storefront, at the roadside, or are you going to be in the air park over here and you have to make up that walk, right? The driving traffic with paid ads. I mean,
100%.
It's a fact, one way or another, right?
One way or another.
Saying if you don't have, it's a marketing expense, whether it goes to rent or the other. But.
Yeah. The next one I would tell them is financial support. Just because you're profitable doesn't mean you're ready to open a second location. What's your cash flow? Is it enough to sustain the expansion? And is it enough to sustain, like for us, we do a 12-week pre-sale. Depending on that 12-week pre-sale, it can cost me up to $100,000 in losses in that pre-sale before the gym opens. I'll give you an example. When I built my store in El Dorado Hills, it's next to a Starbucks. Literally, their drive-through goes around my studio. So you couldn't actually have a worse location. I mean, there's a better location, right? Sure. But there was no place to pre-sale. So I had to rent a mobile mini that mobile mini had to have air, so I had to have a generator. I had to have 4 people running that store. Our managers start at $5,000 or $6,000 in salary, and so we're $10,000, literally $10 to $15,000 in just the pre-sale.
Sure.
In the whole every month. That goes by 4 months, and then we do a model where we dump about $20,000 to $30,000 marketing for 3 months. We go in at hard, and we tell everybody we're here and we're coming. And then we back that down to more like $3,000 to $5,000 a month for now. That might change again. We might go hard again. So, just because you have profits and you go, $200,000, $150,000 negative before the day I can even bill anybody. Most importantly, do you have the financials to do that, build the business, get the equipment, and maintain that other one that still should have been cash flowing and cash writing this one while you're gone. So, I just put financial coverage that keeps the business stable, and just what does that financials look like, and then secure proper financing. Like, are you using cash? Are you using financing? Just securing the proper amount of financing to do that second one once you've already made that decision, right? Like what that looks like.
One of the things that we found is just the resistance around gym owners to pursue capital. Right? Whether it be an SBA loan, whether it be even credit cards for certain levels of growth at certain times, things like that. But, debt is something that as he's a growing business owner, you kind of get used to.
Yeah.
You have to know how to kind of play the game and know how to utilize what's available to you to force that growth.
Yeah.
And I think that some of these guys are just people in general we're just resistant to bet on ourselves, to take that next step and using data, make a decision to, choose a path that will pay us a greater dividend.
Yeah.
And then ultimately that's really what this is all about. But how to skin a cat is a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot of ways
It is. It's hard. You gotta solidify almost your interest first, right? Like why do I want to do this? Is it for the right reasons for our family, for the business model? Do you have an exit strategy? Where are you looking to take the business? Can the current team handle the bandwidth? Can you handle the bandwidth? Can you handle if it's a bad pre-sale? So we pre-sold one of our locations, and we literally started June of 2020. So if you can imagine, in a pre-sale in a smaller town too, it wasn't a like big metropolitan. Everything's closed, but we had to go to pre-sale. We're using masks in a mobile mini, and we still did pretty good. But I would say that even based on that pre-sale, that store has not hit the needs, our goals, right?
Sure.
It's not performing the way we want it to. It's not really a loser, but it's not performing where we want it to.
Yeah.
So, in our model, it works because we know we're going to build 12 of these, 15 of these, and I can carry. I can carry.
It's an average.
And that's what we do. So, so another secret is, if you open enough of them, and your model is good enough, and your processes are good enough to replicate, you might make a bad decision on a location. We're really quick to recognize resources, time, energy. Let's go to the next location, and we can make up a lot of this time and energy on the next location.
And if it's something like you've talked about before, closing locations have to happen at some point. But again, maybe not yet, right? Like you were saying, like maybe it was the COVID effect going in, not being able to get that burst off, that now you have to make up with slow momentum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does the business have the legs is where you guys have, decided.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at a point right now where we can divert our attention somewhere else and then make up for it. But then ultimately not cut this one off yet because it could get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd love to hear, there's I know you guys have a lot of viewers that they might have questions. I'd love to hear questions that they have because their questions make me think even more about my growth, right?
Sure.
Like the things that go into saying, our growth. And I would definitely agree with you, location.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Well, with that thought, anything, any like final takeaways or anything that you want to leave the viewers or listeners with when it comes to, the idea of second location, franchising, just expanding on the single door idea?
Yeah, I would tell you this. Be careful not to get bit by the more bug. right? More is not
isn't
always
better.
better. I already told you that you and I could go build one right now, and we probably would make more money and have a happy life, because he might run mornings, I might run nights. We'd be out on the boat on the weekend,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you're really efficient at it and you've got the income that you want and the time that you need with your family and your life, I would be hesitant about doing it unless I had like a mission, a time like ours. It's 5 years. This is our end goal, right? Family members are behind it. So I think I just leave them with that, is that make sure you identify your why. Make sure why do I want to do this? Identify who's coming along with me and making sure everybody's there. And then make sure that I have an end goal in mind. What do I want to do with this in 4, 5, 6 years, right? Or 10 years. Like PureFit, when we built the other company, it was 12 years, 25 million. That was our goal, right? Go. And so all of us executives, all of the VPs, everybody knew, working backwards, it was for this number, right?
Yeah.
And I would just say, after you've got all that done, go do it. Hire the right people in this business, which is a lot of these people in the Iron Circle, a lot of the people we talk to all the time, that can do your retail, that can help you with your data, your research, your marketing. If you're not a supplement company, reach out to the sup brands that can help you, like all these little ancillary things as well. And use your resources around you.
I love it. Well, I appreciate your time today. It's always good. Next time, I promise we'll do it over whiskey.
Yes.
But no, I think that's a ton of great information for anybody who's considering this. I know it's a common conversation in our Iron Circle.
Yeah.
It's a common conversation with the gym owners I'm speaking with, just in general. And not being fully clear of what you're stepping into, can really put you in an awkward position after you make that decision. So a little bit of clarity on what that could take, what it looks like. But I love the fact you're starting with your why. You have to know your mission, the people around you, a game plan, and the data. And that's the biggest thing. I think that you hit it with a couple of things there. Emotionless around the data. Data doesn't lie. No. Right? We can manipulate our thoughts around it, but ultimately, math is math.
And sometimes it hurts. Even for me too. It hurts.
But to your point, and you made one great point in there too, that like when you took the information, when what's your name came back to you, that was it was our ego that you had to step aside, and you had to say, ultimately, like there's a positive aspect in this, and you knew how to move forward. So with that one though, I appreciate everything, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Built to Grow podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you for listening to that episode of the Built to Grow podcast, where we help gym owners win. Now, do you want to connect with me and other gym owners online? All you need to do is join our private Facebook group, Business Talk with Fitness Professionals. Just head on over to Facebook and type in Business Talk with Fitness Professionals, and when you do, we're going to give you our 10 marketing strategies 7-figure gym owners use to win. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, keep building something great.